Hi everyone. Today is September the 3rd, 2021. And I guess I'm coming to you today with 4 different topics that each on their own I don't think would make much of a video, but they all kind of do link together, all these 4 topics. And it made sense to just share them all with you. Some of them may be more like a rant almost than presentation, but they all fit together. Those 4 topics are retrocausality, how the future affects the present, and I have some experiences of that to share with you. I want to talk a bit about the so-called spiritual teachers, the people who are supposedly have a label of truth on their name, and how useful they are or aren't in what we're going through right now. I got a question asked to me regarding what happens when you feel you're not getting any help, when you feel like the universe is not assisting you in any way, almost, when you feel you just don't feel connected to the place. And then the 4th one I want to talk about is the feeling of being of value here, being that your time here is useful or feels useful. So I'm here in my home. It's 12 noon today. Right now it's again cold and gray. It's been like this for a couple of weeks almost. And I'm sitting on my couch, actually. I guess that's my singing bowl behind me in the little area up there. Oh, at the top is a small piece of the Da Vinci Annunciation. I don't think you'll see it very well. I was trying to find, just like I have the Annunciation on my wall over there, the one from the Monastery of San Marco. I was trying to find a copy of the Da Vinci painting to also have on my wall, and I just didn't have any luck when I was in Florence. I could find others, but not that one. So where to start with this? I guess I'm going to start with the spiritual teachers. Now, a long time ago when I was going through this journey, I read a lot of books and I met a lot of teachers, and then over time I watched a lot of videos, DVDs, I attended a lot of conferences. Now, of course, I was very lucky because I got to spend some time with people who really knew something. People who weren't writing books, who weren't having an organization, who weren't making themselves special, who weren't earning a lot of money from it, they were just living their life and sharing with people who seemed honestly interested to come and visit with them and listen to them and try out what they suggested. But that doesn't mean I didn't read the books, and I read a lot of the popular books at the time. Now, of course, a lot of those books I instantly, or rather quickly, dismissed as someone who doesn't really know what they're talking about. They're playing organization. They're playing happy mode. They're trying to make everyone feel good so that they will get importance or money or sexual favors or specialness or whatever from the people who come to them. So a lot of that was obvious, and they could be very quickly dismissed. But there were a number of them that seemed to make a fairly good point, that seemed to present some interesting knowledge. Okay, let's flash forward now, 2020, 2021. And here we are in the midst of, which to us is the most obvious lie and amount of false we could imagine being dumped on the human population at any one time. And of course, it's going to get worse, but up to this point, most people couldn't fathom that this much of a lie could be dumped on the population and believed. So where's the so-called spiritual teachers in this? The ones who are supposed to be leading the flock, the ones who are claiming to have the truth, not just about this reality, about what happens after you die, what happened before you die, all the concepts, all the ideas, they got it all down. Well, where are they in this? I saw a few stunning, that who are still, I guess, holding, I don't know what you call them, lectures or gatherings or whatever. And if you haven't rented the Action Jackson, you can't go see them. You can't go to their gathering. You can't spend time with them. And you have to start to wonder immediately that, one, if you can't see through the lie to start with, how well are you seeing true and false at all? That's one. But two, if you're at the very least, if you're a truth seeker, or if you are supposed to be a leader towards someone for truth, and you've got a situation where it's potentially confusing, then a whole lot of sides have different things to say. You should at least be able to say, well, this is how I've come to see it, but this is something you're going to have to study on your own. This is something you're going to have to dig into, and you're going to have to examine, because it's quite obvious something huge is happening, and you need to examine it yourself. No, that's not what any of these people are doing. They've just taken the download, they've taken the magic spell, and now they're weaving it into their own importance and specialness and high rise on the pedestal. And so now we have to ask and I mean, this is a huge majority of supposed authorities who are on board with this. Can anything they've ever written, can anything they've ever suggested, can any pointer they've ever given be taken with any value? And I'm really serious about this. That if they can't allow open questioning of what's going on right now, how can we trust anything they've ever said to this point? Anything. And I've had to weave through over the last few months a lot of stuff that I took in 15, 20 years ago from people that I thought had some authority with things that I read, with people I thought, yeah, they've gone, at least at the time, I thought they've gone far beyond me, so they might really know something. I'm having to kind of root through my own mind and figure out, what did I take in from people that are now obviously full of crap, and have to root all that junk out of there and clean the closet, you might say one more time. So it's really, really disappointing to think that now, in the midst of challenge, in the midst of difficulty, the flock, right, the average person who feels they're on some sort of spiritual / truth journey / whatever, are going back to their religious spiritual community, to their books, to their teachers, to their seeing what they have to say to them, and they're just saying the same thing television's saying. So of course, well, they're going to even believe the TV more. And to me, it now means that the spiritual teachers have failed the world. And yeah, the spiritual and the religious teachers, and we're going to throw religion into this too, because one place that a lot of humans will take a level of authority from is a religious figure. That if their religious leader said to them, yeah, I know this is what you're being told, but you know what? That doesn't match with how we see our holy scriptures, or how we see the depth of our true journey here, so you'd better look into it. Since they're not getting that message from almost anybody with some called authority of life and death and knowledge of truth, they failed. And one of the biggest reasons that we are where we are is because the ones that humans have entrusted themselves to listen to, the ones that they have chosen, that they know more than they've gone beyond them in the great search, so they should be listened to, they failed. They failed everyone. So I want to start with that as a real message. And I don't want to list names, but I could. I could list just personally 10 names of these so-called gurus / teachers / people that seem like they knew something, who have just thrown humanity under the bus, basically, so that they can keep making a few more dollars, so that they can have a couple of more workshops, so they can sell their old crappy books. Well, I've seen through you, and a whole lot of other people are seeing through you now too. We're not just seeing through, there are so many lies that we have been under for a long time. And they're starting to come out. They've been coming out for the last 7, 8, 10 years in a big way. More and more and more everywhere. Little here, 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 here. They're like clusters of explosions going off to see. And we're seeing more and more and more. As this continues, you're seeing more and more and more. You're seeing that everything and every area you've put your trust in is really not someone or something you should have trusted. It's pretty shocking to see the level of deception. That's a good word. Level of deception and the level to create misperception in what we're doing, because that's really also where we're at. Everything that's come here is because we have been tricked into misperceiving ourselves, misperceiving reality, misperceiving experience, misperceiving everything. And we're not getting, and these groups are not helping us. We'll go back to value 4 at the end. I'll finish this when I go to value 4. Next is retrocausality. And I always forget, one of the channels has been talking about this quite a lot, and I can never remember if it's Levette or if it's Vanessa VA. And I actually went to both of those channels before I came on. Oh, well, if I look at some of their videos, it'll jog my memory. It'll be in the title. Couldn't find it on any of them. So I don't know which one it is. One of you will comment below and tell me, oh, it's this one, not that one. But as of this second, I don't know which one it was. But anyway, retrocausality is the sort of quantum physics idea that is opposite to how we normally think, that the experience or situation or usually problem I'm having now is dependent on something I did or decision that was made or an experience that happened in the past that's moved forward to the present moment. That's normal linear thinking. But once you look into retrocausality, which is the idea that something that happens in the future is affecting now, that something that, and you might say something that has to happen in the future. This is very interesting. It's not just that, oh, it's a choice I'm going to make in the future. It's literally the choice that you're going to have to make 10 years from now, so to speak, needs to be brought back to this moment and you to have certain experiences in order to create that to happen. And at the same time, a part of you now is recognizing 10 years in the future and is energetically reacting to it, is energetically reacting to what's coming in the future. So I say this because my time here on the farm has been beyond frustrating. I was going to do this video yesterday, but I mean, I was in such a rough, energetic state that it wouldn't have been good for you to have to seen me yesterday. And it's kind of, I'm not getting into the level of it, but it's like, wow, just wow. And I'm looking forward to the next chapter, or I'm looking for, no, I'm going to state this very clearly. I'm looking forward to the next book. That this book, this experience is not a chapter, it's a book, and I intend to close it, put it away, put it on the shelf as a story that's been read, not interested in reading it again, and a new book is going to open. So I'm being very clear with my language. This experience, this book was okay, a very challenging but interesting read, but now it's going on. Now it's just going into storage, and it's not going forward. But I think back to 2016 when the first of a whole lot of bizarre illnesses all hit me at once. I had a knee injury, a very bad knee injury that needed a surgery, and through that, a whole lot of other stuff in my body just kind of went out of control. And of course, I blamed it on certain things at the time, blamed it on the past. I was only looking for the reason for what was going on had to be in the past, or had to be like, oh, I'm tapping into some universal, I don't know, something, right? The thought never occurred to me that something in me was seeing the future, like maybe this experience I'm going through now, and was literally feeling it 5 years ago, and had I known what was going on, I could have been potentially, you could have been 5 steps ahead of looking forward as you went forward into the future to try to find out what are the events that could have been the cause of what I just went through, and I'm going to try to avoid them. Now you're dealing with this. It's back to a free will question when you start pulling in retrocausality again. I just watched The Adjustment Bureau last night, the Matt Damon movie, which is it's okay. It's a very, very interesting concept, of course, where this group behind the scenes is constantly making us spill coffee or slip on the street or miss a bus or have our cell phone not working or something in order to not deviate us off some sort of cosmic universal plan. So it's according to that movie and some people who would think that way, then of course there is a cosmic universal plan which is supposed to be great for us, but we through free will can make a mistake to the plan and do something else, and they have to fix it so that the plan will continue. Well, what is the point of giving free will if you as a creator have set up a plan and have set up a complete detail of what everyone and everything is supposed to do, and then let the creatures potentially get off track, so you have to actually go there and fix it? But the whole concept is flawed. Like, it's flawed because either you don't have a plan other than a simple general makeup of sort of rules and boundaries and possibilities, and then you just let your creatures go to it, have at it. That makes sense. Or if you've got plans in place, if you've got destinies and things that have to be done, well, giving the creature free will where they could potentially throw themselves off their destiny and then you have to go in and fix it for them, well, that makes no sense either. So retrocausality is bringing us back to again, the concept that the way it's presented is like you can throw yourself off of a plan, or you can, why would you need to be affected now by the future unless you have some sort of possibility that you have a chance to either see or change or alter how that future happens so that you can potentially accept or not accept it? Another one of these retrocausality ideas was, I don't want to go into the detail of who this was, but I was dating somebody 18 years ago, something like that. Really great woman. And but I knew something, I just felt something was coming in my life that was going to explode my consciousness. I didn't know what it was, but I knew very shortly my consciousness was going to get exploded somehow, which of course turned out to be the falling in the canyon, right? And I felt that whatever I was going to go through there, it was not fair to put this particular person through that experience. That was just, again, I didn't know what was coming or how or why, but this is what there was just this undeniable sense of something is going to be happening. It's going to be happening soon, within a year or two, and so I ended that relationship. Not because I disliked being with the person in any way, shape, or form, but something was telling me that what I'm going to have to go through would be really, really not for her. That's just not what she would need. And of course, it made no sense at the time. And it wasn't until after I'd had the canyon experience, and maybe a year or two later than that, I started to look back and say, well, maybe I can see what might have happened there. That's a form of retrocausality. And it's so hard to detail because we have so been focused on time being linear. Past, present, future. Past, present, future. Time always goes in a particular linear fashion. And as soon as you throw out linear time, as soon as you throw out the possibility that the past, the future can affect now, and that you can affect the past. That's the other. I don't know what that name is. Because retrocausality is the name of the one thing, but where you can consciously or through desire change an event in the past. Because if you change an event in the past, well, you would change probably some of where you are and what you're experiencing now. Of course you would, right? And so I bring all that up. Oh yeah, the other thing about the Adjustment Bureau that was on the top of my head was the character Matt Damon plays is again named David. Do you know how many of these, what you might call attempting to describe wisdom movies, has the main male character named David? Like, I can think of a few just off the top of my head and haven't studied it in detail, but like Pleasantville, that's David. Vanilla Sky, that's David. Like I thought of a few others. Okay, Donnie Darko, well that's not David. Groundhog Day, that's Phil Connors. I don't remember the name of the main character in the 13th Floor. We know from The Matrix the name is Neo, but that's really strange that would be somebody's name, given name. We know the last name was Anderson, right? But we don't really know what the first name was. I don't think. But I'm just curious how many other wisdom movies have the main character is named David, or if that character is somehow, because it's also the character of David has somehow, in these three movies that I've just mentioned, The Truman Show would be another with the name Truman, right? They've given him a specific name. But all of those movies have an idea where they've seen beyond the veil. They've seen the other side. They've seen the makeup somehow of how reality functions, and they're going to do something about it. So I don't know if it somehow wanted to link to the mindset of David and Goliath, and there's somehow, but that's not necessarily what you see in those movies. But anyway, I just brought it up that they're all characters are named David for some very interesting, odd reason. Okay, so I got a question. Sorry, I'm just moving from topic to topic here. That's the point of this video. And it was someone who had got in touch with me and was very concerned that, I'm trying to remember the question now because I didn't write it down. I'm not on my computer. I'm filming on my iPad. But something similar to like they feel like they're not getting physical guidance, if that makes sense. They're not getting direct physical material world signs of what to do. That and if there's something wrong or so. As much as we just talked about retrocausality and whether there's free will or changing or movement, well, we've got the sense of it. There's the appearance of guidance and help being laid in from the universe, right? The universe seems to be at times presenting us with assistance, and the more we ask for it, pray for it, be aware to it, it seems like it happens more often. Now, this guidance doesn't always have to be something physical. It's like where somebody's waiting for a sign and then a book falls off the shelf, or someone they need to talk to shows up and talks to them, or the right movie comes on that gives them information on exactly what to do next, or they're wondering where to go on their trip and this old postcard falls out of their wallet, or these kind of things, or they see a flash of light that reveals something. So I've had those. I've had very physical, defined experiences, or things that I at least would classify as a physical experience. It doesn't necessarily mean it was physical, but it seemed physical. There's a physical element to it. Other times it's just intuitive. Other times it's just an intuition. But how do you know what something you're feeling or intuiting or drawn to just naturally, you might say, and what's a sign from some sort of angelic helper being, you might say? What's the difference? I don't know, because that would be so personal to each one. But my guess is help is going to come in the way that the help thinks it's going to reach you. Now, there's three ways help can come. There's as an inner intuitive voice. So it's that there's like an inner feeling, an inner message, and it can be feeling, it might not even be words, but that's one. The second is where there's seemingly nothing happens at all, just something works out or something happens or a door opens without you seemingly having done anything or noticed anything, or it just, one day it didn't and the next day it did. The third, of course, is where you get a physical manifestation. What did Castaneda call them? Doorway of intent in Power of Silence. Where a doorway of intent is like placed in front of you and you either choose to walk through it or ignore it. And generally, a doorway of intent, at least in my life to this point, they've always been a bit odd. They've been out of the ordinary, a little strange looking, enough that in many cases you would, if you weren't paying attention, you would kind of dismiss it as just something odd and just move on. You wouldn't kind of, something makes you have to stop and just go, wait a minute. What is this? What's going on? And so an important part of, I think, whenever there could be guidance coming to you is the need to stop. Stop everything. Stop the movement, stop the thinking, stop the trying to explain anything, and just take in the experience. Take in what is going on. Take in what is being presented and just kind of be still with it all. And see what comes from it. The other part of the question was relating to not feeling like they belong here, feeling like they don't fit in. And to me, that anybody will be feeling like this is not something that the person who came with this question to me, you don't feel alone in this world, trust me. Everyone who has taken a step beyond where they used to be as a very closed-eyed, closed-mind human being has somewhere along the way felt they don't fit in because, well, we don't, right? The more you start to see the way things really are here, or the way you start to see that, especially when you start to see that reality isn't as real as you think it is, or always thought it is, or you are not as solid and complete and, in fact, real as you thought you were, well, of course you don't fit in. You know, when an actor in a movie, if an actor in a movie really thought they were the role and then all of a sudden realized, oh yeah, I'm an actor playing the role in the movie, they would no longer be able to fit in with the other actors who believe they really are that character, right? If you take it like method acting, let's just throw it simply. Let's pretend everybody's method acting, which is you're your character all the time, right? You're not just the character when the camera's rolling. When the camera's not rolling and you're eating your lunch with everybody and you're the character all the time. You just literally, you allow yourself to be taken over by that character. So you live it 24 hours a day until the movie or the theater production, whatever, is complete. So it's almost like the similar, like you're with 20 other actors and they're all method acting all the time. You know them from outside. You know them, you know all of them from somewhere else, from your other days, and you spend time with them and you go to parties with them and whatever. But all of a sudden, in the context of this particular movie or theater that you're involved in, they're all method acting and they are only being the character that they are in the movie, and the person you know is not responding to you. They're literally not there. They're not acknowledging it. But you are not method acting. You're trying to go back, once the camera stops, you're trying to go back to being you and having the regular conversations and the regular stuff that you do with these people, and they'll have none of it. They'll have none of it because, you know, they are the Victorian person they're playing in the movie. They're Napoleon. They're whatever, right? Well, you would feel like you don't fit in. It's like they're playing one game and you're not playing the game. So, of course, you're going to feel totally like you don't belong. So, on some level, the whole world is playing a game. This whole reality is playing a particular game. And everything is almost everything's bought in to the game on different levels, right? Some are this level, some are this level. But everybody's bought in on some way of the game. And if you start not buying into this reality and the way it's all been set up and the way it runs, if you pull some plugs, of course you're not going to fit in. You're not a member of the organization anymore. You're not a member of the club. So the fact that you feel that you don't fit in, and some people maybe never felt they fit in, even when they were kids. There were things that somehow they knew as a kid, and the whole world seemed crazy already when they were 4 years old, like, this is stupid. It's not a bad thing. It's confusing. It's difficult. It's hard to understand, because who can you talk to about your confusion? Because you're talking to the method actor, you're talking to the club members, you're talking to the organization. Who is there to help you with that, other than to say, like somebody like me who can maybe say, well, it's not bad. It's frustrating and it's difficult and it's confusing, but it's not bad, and you shouldn't try to stop it. Don't try to force yourself to fit in here when you feel like you really don't. Instead, either combination of go within to see what you do, what you would fit with. What sort of reality or experiences or persons or would you feel you fit in with? What would be, maybe you might say, yeah, I could fit into this place, but if this was, the Renaissance, or if this was a native Indian village, or if this was, ancient Greece, or if this was a Wild West saloon or whatever, I could fit into that. That would be my environment. So it's in a sense of find out, well, what would you fit in with? What kind of environment, what kind of world would you fit in with, if any? Or the opposite would be stepping back and seeing, could what you fit in with, you might say, or could what home, you're going to call it home. If you could say home, what you might call your home may have nothing to do with this place. That this place, you'll never fit in because it's not home, if that makes sense. It's not your natural place. You've been taken out of home and you've put in some very strange, a place that's a long way away, metaphorically, and another way is just taking time to ask, well, what's home? What do I think home might be? Even if you turn out to be wrong later on, you're starting with the process. You're just digging into what it might be. So what is home? What might home be? What might home be? And then see if that helps you feel that maybe there is something that you can fit in with. It's maybe not going to be here in this experience. Or maybe it's something you'll only have when you're alone. Maybe you'll only be able to have this feeling of fitting in, bizarrely, and being at home when there's no one else with you. And you have to recognize that as soon as you go into the world and interact with it, you're not going to be at home. But somehow when you are alone and still and quiet or reflective, you might be able to access the place that is home, the place where you do fit in, even though, bizarrely, there's no one there you're fitting in with, seemingly. But that doesn't mean you're not, because there's so many levels of experience, so many levels of connection, so many levels of, realms of experience. Maybe that's where your home is. So that was the answer to that question. The last one, I guess, that goes back to linking to the original where I started, and that was the feeling of being of value. Feeling that that the time you put into this place, that the time you spend here and that you put forth has felt like it's had some use. I don't want to say purpose, because that makes it sound something else, but just you feel like, yeah, I'm glad I did these things, so it's something that I struggled with for a long time. I put in a lot of years of this work, and I gave up a lot. I really did. I gave up to write my books and to research and study. I gave up a lot. While other people having good jobs and cementing themselves and rising up the ladder and buying a nice home and having cars and family vacations, and I couldn't do any of that because all of my time was spent on my research. All of my time was spent on dealing with myself and dealing with cleaning up messes that came from making mistakes in that process and causing problems in reality at the same time. So I didn't get to do any of that. And then all of a sudden I reached a point where part of what for example, what I had done all this for was to share it. And I felt like I wasn't sharing anything. There was nothing, I didn't even know there was any really to share. That maybe I had spent whatever it was, 15 years or something of all of this stuff, and I came out of it with nothing, really, of maybe a few insights for myself, but nothing that were of any value to anyone else. And it was very, very hard to realize there's a lot of other things I could have done for 15 years that could have made myself a bit more stable and comfortable and enjoyed a lot more of the trip. And then the next round of books came out and this YouTube channel started. And at first, this YouTube channel for me, I'm just talking about, this is just me now, and value. At first, it was more just, it gave me an outlet. That I had all of these things that I'd been wanting to say and talk about, and it was just a chance to start getting it out of my system, to kind of just release it. I didn't really expect it to go too far. I just wanted to let it release. I just wanted to share a few things, and maybe one or two people actually might pick something up and say, hey, that was great, and goes along in their life, even though I would never know that it happened, but at least I feel, well, maybe one or two will catch something along. So my whole 15 or 20 year journey was not wasted, right? Then the combination of a couple of interviews that I did with Crow 777 and Jay Widener opened some doors to a whole lot of other interviews that began that ball rolling. And then Matt over at Quantum of Conscious, he made a recommendation on his channel, and all of a sudden I went from a few hundred subscribers to a few thousand subscribers in a weekend. And all of a sudden I had a really interesting group of people, some of which who are still here from that time, some of which are still joining me for this journey. I know a lot of people join for certain reasons, for certain things they wanted me to talk about, and I didn't talk about them to the level that they hoped I would, or wished they would, or thought I was supposed to, have left. That's okay. But the ones who have continued around have been of value, first of all, to me. You've been of value to me for two reasons. Not one, of course, by the comments that you've shared, the information you've brought to me, the book suggestions, the suggestions of other areas to look into, to kind of open doors that I'd kind of closed to myself, or I didn't know were doors. You've brought that to me. You've also brought this sense of all of my time and effort and all of the things I sacrificed and gave up and the difficulties I went through are now valuable to someone else. And that's been, even now through all of the stress I've gone through here the last few months, that little bit of feeling like all of the experiences of my life have some value to others is a very sobering and sanity-keeping tool, and I really, really appreciate it. I appreciate Matt's initial help. I don't think he realizes how much that one video he made really, really made a difference in how I felt about sharing material and how I felt about being comfortable with talking to you and keeping this process going. And the other is the ones who did the first interviews with me. Even though my interviews weren't the greatest, I was still learning how to be interviewed. There's it's a skill like any other skill, how to do it. And I was still really in the process of learning it and dealing with a lot of stuff, and of course dealing with it during this crazy time period that I'm trying to figure out of our world situation. And that's when I was trying to have to also figure out how to do interviews and what to say. So my first few interviews weren't I don't think great, but they got the ball rolling. And I've got some new ones that were just done, actually, that I will share in the description box below. One was with Simon Laurie King. These were all from the last week, once I got my internet back up. Simon Laurie King and Jared Murphy, I think, we were interviewed together. The gentleman who has been, he's actually in the Grand Canyon now, doing some archaeological reconnaissance, looking for some proofs of ancient civilizations and if the stories of the Grand Canyon are really true or not. So it was a really interesting interview on a lot of different topics. And Jared and I think we'll stay in touch, and we'll probably converse quite often and maybe have some future talks together. A really, really well-researched, interesting guy. The second interview I did, that was done on Monday. That was with the Tinfoil Hat group, which included Sam was the main questioner. And that was a really interesting interview for me because they were all so enthusiastic about not just the details of things like my death experience and how that shaped how I see reality, and talking about reality, talking about the fairs, talking about ancient Egypt. So, well, there wasn't necessarily a lot new I was presenting in that interview. It was just the enthusiasm that the three guys who do the podcast had, and it really helped create a really powerful interview, because it's kind of like there was a like a circle of energy that was actually happening, that their enthusiasm was getting me enthusiastic, so I was presenting really well, and that let them get more enthusiastic, and they, so it was very interesting that there was this, if you could see the energy, you could probably see this channel of energy being created, that nothing's being wasted, it's just going through each of us to create a better interview. And then I did one Wednesday with Mark Gray, which was a very different interview for me, because it's questions I never get. And so on one hand, I felt like I was back on day one of my interviews, and I was kind of like, well, I'm not really sure how to answer that. I haven't had time to even think about it. But questions like the Steve Jackson cards, right? Or on just a variety of subjects, very challenging conspiracy theory subjects that I don't get very often, and I kind of wasn't even sure where I was going to answer and how I was going to go. But it was still a very good interview, because he's very well researched. He's done a lot of work in his life, and he is he was willing to go into subjects that I don't normally go into. And so I really, even though maybe I didn't give the smoothest interview, and maybe I wasn't, you're not going to say that was, I've seen me do better. It was great for him to take me on a different road than I normally go on. And so I really appreciated that. I'm going to be doing another one. I don't want to say when that's going to happen yet, or how it's going to go, or who's involved at this point, but it's going to be on my near-death experience with a number of other people, and we're going to be talking about the experiences of people's experiences of the death of having a death experience, and the effects of it, and how that changes your world or not. And of course, mine is so unique compared to the average one of these, and so that'll be coming up. But of the three that I've done, the links are below, and you can go watch them. But anyway, the point of it was this idea of feeling valued. So so enough about me, let's turn it to you. I think it's important that you feel valued somehow. And I'm also guessing a lot of you don't. Just 2 or 3 years ago, I didn't feel very valued at all by anyone. I had a lot of friends over the years. I've lived in a lot of different places, had a lot of friends, had a lot of ex-girlfriends in my life. And other than one good friend from when I was back in high school, they never email me. They never check in. They never wonder how I'm doing. They never just drop a message like, hey, I saw you have a YouTube channel. It's going really good. Good to see it. Hope all is good in your life. Nothing. Zero. They're just gone. Gone from my life. And so I was wondering, there's a big wondering of, did it have any use for somebody else? Your journey, your life will always have value for you, no matter how it goes. Good or bad, high or low, naughty or nice, there's going to be something in it for you. But are you feeling like you're having value to someone else? I don't necessarily mean value like being a bodhisattva. I'm not a bodhisattva, for example. Far from it, not interested. A bodhisattva is, if I had to simplify what it is for those who don't know, it would be it's a Buddhist term for a being that gives up, I guess, all of their own happiness or all of their own wishes in order that the wishes and happiness of other beings can be fulfilled. I'm not a bodhisattva, and I'm probably sure you're not. But it is important to feel valued, to feel like what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, that others appreciate it, that others appreciate that, because everything we do in a day takes our time, takes our energy, takes something of us to make it happen. And if we feel that no one gives a crap whether we did it or not, no one gives a crap whether we put our time or energy in something, then it's very hard to want to keep doing stuff. So I think it's also important to help find ways, first of all, help find ways of being of value to ourselves if we don't feel that way. Try doing something else, something small, something simple that lets us feel like we're appreciated. When my wife and I started many years ago donating time at an animal shelter for lost and homeless animals, that felt like felt like we were of great value, even if the other humans, for whatever reason, didn't say thanks or didn't really. We knew the animals were appreciating when we come. They were happy to see us, So we were getting value, even if the humans ignored us completely. We could get that value, feeling value from the animals. And the flip side of it is, realize that people in your life, people that you feel connected to, or you want to feel connected to, or that you really want to have something there, they also want to feel a value in their life, right? That's a common human trait. Help them. Once in a while, just say, I really appreciate because you do this. This is great that you've done this, or it's great that you've been doing this, or this is really great when you do more of this or that. Because it means you've acknowledged them. You've acknowledged that their time and energy has an impact on you. And as soon as you make that acknowledgement that you appreciate X, whatever X is, then the person is more likely to do more of it, right? If nobody commented on my videos, if all I got was, you're an idiot, we hate your channel, you're really stupid, I'm never going to watch you again, I wouldn't be doing more of these. I would have stopped, of course. I would have just, what's the point? Why would I put my energy into something that feels like it's just being responded to by a brick wall? But if you're getting positive responses and encouragement and, we'd like you to do more, we'd like you to do something on this, well, of course, you have a finite amount of energy that you can use in this world. Everybody does. And you have to know where do you want to put it? Where do you want to put that energy? Because it's going somewhere. So you got to put it somewhere that you feel not only is useful for you, it's useful for you'd like to feel someone or something else, that someone or something else is getting value from the energy you put into life. So flip side it, right? When you've got somebody else that you can encourage, do so. Encourage them. Say something, you appreciate something about them. You like that they've done this. You're glad that they're doing this in their life. Because the person might only need one or two pieces of encouragement, and that's it. Maybe they're at a hump and you don't notice it, and they're like thinking, I'm just going to pack it all in. It's just not worth it. And then here comes one or two people who kind of just say, we really appreciate that you're doing this. Hope it continues. That might be enough to get them through that one hump. And okay, well, I'll give it another shot. I'll do another week. I'll try to make one more painting. Or whatever, I guess I should wrap this up now. My informal talk of various subjects. I'm really curious, of course, like everybody is, like a year from now, September 2022, for example, what is our world going to look like? What is our world going to look like? It's interesting, of course, because normal thought, and we go back to retrocausality, normal thought would be saying, we're shaping that now. The way we're acting and thinking and the choices we make, that's going to create the world that's going to be September 2022. Retrocausality would say September 22 may already be happening. It's already occurring. It's happening right in this now moment. And it's affecting everybody now, that if you want to know what 2022 is going to be like, figure out what's going on, figure out how that future is affecting you and the world now, and you'll know what's coming. You'll know what it's going to be like. But I'm really curious. I'm really curious how this is going to go. Because the whole of what we know of as human society as we have known it is on a cliff face. Like we're on the edge. We're on the edge, and we're right at the tipping point. Like it's still balanced very precariously, but just a little bit more weight on the cliffside, and we're going over in free fall. We'll be the coyote going over the canyon. With a little bit of weight, at least on the back end of it, at least we'll have a little more stabilization for a while. But I was talking to, maybe it was in the interview with Mark, there feels like there's something on the horizon this winter. There's going to be a surprise. There's going to be a surprise, something that we just are not ready to predict. And, we've heard all of these suggestions, the group in charge is ready to have aliens land in the White House, or Jesus is going to appear in the sky and talk to everybody, or there's going to be some sort of, worldwide volcanic eruptions and earthquakes, or an asteroid's going to hit us, or there's something, right? We've been presented this, but I think now we're at the point where the surprise card is going to come out of the deck. The Joker's going to come out of the deck. That the 52 cards we've been playing with up to this point is going to get a 53rd thrown into it sometime in the next 3 or 4 months. That's going to be unpredictable. That's going to be really hard. It's hard for us to sit back and say, I know what it's going to be. No, you're not going to be prepared for it. You'll know it when it comes. You'll know, oh, there it is. There's the Joker card being played. Okay. But until it happens, it's going to be a question mark. I will be surprised if we get through to March or April next year with no Joker coming out of the deck, with no weird surprise being thrown on us. I mean, collectively. So I know that's going to be in the cards. That's going to be in the cards. Well, I have some work to do out on the farm now. I should get out and do that. Thanks for hearing the video. I don't know how much is really of value in this one, but I had all these topics that I thought didn't really flow with one video. So let's put, or separate videos. So let's put it all in one video and see if they make it through and they have use to you. Exposing the Expositions is up now on Amazon. I'm not sure if it actually connects through my name anymore for some reason. It's like my author name doesn't connect with the book smoothly, but if you still put in Exposing the Expositions, the new one will come up. revised edition, cleaned up and with a few additions from the last year. A few new pieces on mostly the Columbian Exposition that I found out that I thought should go in the book. Thanks as always for the encouragement, as we said, feeling of value, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.